Hi, everybody, and welcome to this recorded session on Account Defender. Human Account Defender helps your organization safeguard your online accounts from fraud and abuse. So let's start by talking about the value of accounts and why they are targets. So on the left-hand side of this slide, we can see organizations that have been affected by a web or a mobile application attack. And as you can see, the vast majority, 90.3%, have been affected by these types of attack. Some of you listening to this call may have also experienced these types of attack. On the right-hand side of the slide, we can see organizations, what are their concerns from these types of attack occurring. So right away, we can see number 2, account takeover. That is, accounts that are being compromised by a bad actor in order to perform abusive and fraudulent actions. But we should also consider that a lot of these other choices here, so for example, number 1, personally identifiable information harvesting, or PII, is also can be a consequence from an account being compromised. Carding and payment fraud attacks can also be consequences of an account being compromised and bad actors taking control of that account. So there are lots of different use cases, lots of different pain points that organizations such as yours may be experiencing as the consequences of a compromised account or of fake accounts being created. So it's also worth calling out that a lot of the time, it's not just automated attacks that are leading to accounts being compromised or fake accounts being created. Approximately 82% of breaches involved the human element in some way. So this is a great quote from the Verizon Data Breach Investigations Report. Whether it is the use of stolen credentials, phishing, misuse, or simply an error, people continue to play a very large role in incidents and breaches alike. Which leads us into how accounts themselves get compromised. So we've mentioned a little bit there about automated attacks, so typically bot-led attacks, and some of the main vectors for those are using credential stuffing, which is the act of using stolen credentials, say from a data breach, which is a very common source of stolen credentials, in order to then try and bypass account security using those credentials, those login details, or brute forcing, which is an attempt to guess the credentials, for example, by brute forcing them. In the case of having a very weak password, for example, a malicious actor could use an automated tool to guess that password, which is one of the reasons that we recommend that organizations, security organizations, recommend having very strong passwords with uppercase, lowercase, special characters, not using words straight from the dictionary, that kind of thing. But it's not just bots that are used to compromise accounts. So malware is another very common attack vector. So for example, mobiles, laptops, other devices, desktops have been infected with malware in some form. So a very common vector for this type of attack is ransomware, which I'm more sure everyone listening to this is very familiar with because ransomware has become so prominent. And in a ransomware attack, payload is dropped onto the device, which then encrypts valuable files and information on that device. The user can no longer access them, and then access, or rather re-access to those files is ransomed by the perpetrator. But it's also become increasingly common that the attacker drops a second payload, which can steal and exfiltrate any of that sensitive, personally identifiable information or login credentials, for example. And then that can be used in further attacks or resold on the dark web for profit. And then another very common attack vector for how accounts get compromised are phishing and social engineering. So I'm sure everybody is familiar with phishing attacks. They can be often in the form of emails, which attempt to trick users into handing over their login details. Now, these can actually be quite sophisticated. So for example, an email that points users to a website, a web page that looks like their bank. In reality, it's actually a cloned web page that can look identical. Gone are the days where cloned websites always look very low budget. They've got spelling errors. Nowadays, they can, in the case of sophisticated attackers, look very similar to the original web page. So when the user then goes to fill in their details, thinking they're logging into their bank account, for example, what they're really doing is handing over their personal details, their credentials to that attacker, who then has access to them and then can perform further attacks on their real website or sell those details on for profit. So there are lots of different ways that accounts can get compromised. It's not just bots and automated attacks. It's malware, it's human actors, it's social engineering, it's phishing, lots of different vectors for accounts to be bypassed. And the consequences of an account takeover or a fake account being created can be very severe, which is why post-login visibility is such a key part of account security. So let's look at a few examples here. This isn't an exhaustive list. There are lots of other examples, but here are just a handful to get us started. So on the compromised accounts front, when a bad actor has gained access to an account, so they bypassed any login security that was there, they now have effective free reign in the account. Any funds that are stored in that account, so whether that's straight financial or in the form of points, those can be drained for profit. Illicit credit card use, so any cards that are on file, a bad actor will make use of that to commit fraudulent transactions. Targeted information theft from personally identifiable information, PII, and sensitive data that's in there again can be stolen. Return fraud, so this is quite a common combination for attackers to use, whereby they will use stored value in the account or credit card details on file to purchase goods. They will get those delivered to the bad actor's address rather than the legitimate account owner. Those goods will then be sold on for profit. I mean, they could be digital goods as well. And then they will claim, at least in the case of physical goods, that those never arrived, and then try to commit return fraud on the organization as well. So you've got the double whammy of having a fraudulent sale, loss of revenue, and then losing money for the return as well. So some really nasty behavior going on there. Then in the case of fake accounts, so fake accounts can have very broad and different use cases as well. So some common vectors that we've seen are using fake accounts as a vehicle for distributing malware. So for example, posting compromised links that then when a user clicks on them, they'll end up infected with ransomware, for example, or using fake accounts to send phishing emails in an attempt to trick other users, spamming inappropriate content on online marketplaces, for example, posting fake reviews or both negative, so devaluing the appearance of competitive products and then increasing the positive reviews on their own products, which makes it really hard for legitimate platform users to understand what's good and what isn't. Promotion fraud is also very commonplace with fake accounts. So an example could be an organization is offering a service, a paid for service, but fake accounts get, say, 1 or 2 weeks free trial for that paid for service. So then the fraudster will create fake accounts in order to access the benefits of that service without paying for them. And in some cases, they can create lots and lots of fake accounts and then sell those fake accounts to other people who don't want to pay for the service either. So they're going to be paying a vastly reduced fee for that. So lots of different ways that fake accounts can abuse the value and extract value from your applications and from your websites. So let's talk a little bit about how Account Defender can help you to combat these problems. So Account Defender is designed to safeguard your online accounts from fraud and abuse. And it does this by detecting and neutralizing both compromised and fake accounts. Now, there are 3 key pillars that we like to talk about when it comes to Account Defender. First up, we have see and stop fraud and abuse. So Account Defender works post-login. It's not just operating at the point of login. It's not waiting until an attempted card fraud transaction is attempted, for example. It looks at all activity in an account post-login, evaluating those activities over the entire lifetime with an evolving behavior-based risk score. When a risk threshold is passed, it will automatically respond with automated actions that don't require manual intervention unless your organization would like to manually intervene. So examples of those actions could be throwing up a capture challenge, flagging the account for review, forcing a password reset, locking the account. But again, those are customizable depending on your organization's needs. So it's easier to keep customers and users safe and secure with automated actions that intervene as soon as that risk threshold is passed. An Account Defender is also going to help your busy fraud, your busy compliance, trust and safety teams to spend their time more efficiently, reduce the amount of time that they're spending manually investigating. Account Defender makes it very easy for those teams to see exactly what took place in an incident, why a particular reaction was triggered, and then quickly share that important information with their other team members. You can also choose from pre-written template reports or create your own fully customizable reports to share information that's key for your organization. So seeing and stopping fraud. Let's just recap some of the things we talked about. So Account Defender works by generating an ever-evolving risk score. So your accounts are constantly assessed and monitored, and risk score is updated as more actions are viewed. And those actions are looked at in lots of different contexts. So geographical location, is the email domain suspicious? Have we seen this device before? Lots of different actions that are looked at together with a machine learning engine to determine whether actions truly are suspicious or whether that's the normal user behavior that it should be. So that behavioral analysis is looking at all actions that are taken post-login in that account. And it's continuous monitoring. So that assessment begins at the account creation and it continues throughout its life cycle. So it's really key to reinforce that message that this isn't just a point in time assessment. It is ongoing. We're not just operating at the point of login and then not checking again. We're not waiting until the point of transaction, for example. Account Defender is able to look at all of the actions that take place between that in order to determine whether an account is compromised or it's a fake account abusing your service, your application. So reducing customer risk. So as I mentioned, Account Defender, when a specific risk threshold is passed, automated response actions will kick in. So there's no manual intervention required there unless you want to. And those automated actions are fully customizable and can be configured to do what your business needs. So a few examples: password resets, locking the account, flagging the account for investigation, or throwing up a capture challenge. I really want to stress that it works the way your business does. We will spend time liaising with you to understand what are your critical needs, and Account Defender will help you to check those boxes. So cutting investigation time. As I mentioned, fraud teams, compliance teams, trust and safety teams are all incredibly busy, already juggling multiple products. So you don't want to introduce another solution that's going to give you a headache and add lots of extra work. The good news is Account Defender isn't going to do that. It's going to make their lives easier by helping them to get right to the root cause of an incident. So understand why an automated action was taken with detailed intelligence on incidents. They can also speed up sophisticated manual investigations with additional context. Account Defender is able to give you line-by-line details on the actions that led to a decision being made in that account. So you can dig in there and really understand, it was a new device login. It logged in at a different time, a different geolocation. It was logged into 6 other devices. You can understand and build up a picture of all of that to get the really granular information. And Account Defender makes it really, really easy to share the learnings and the knowledge that you can find within it. So it's easy to access, ready to go templates. You can also create custom reports to share key information fast. And it's really easy to import that data into your data management platform of choice. So Account Defender uses multiple methods to identify suspicious behavior. Here are just some of the more general ones. We'll look at the slightly more detailed ones in just a moment. But essentially, it works on a risk scoring model. So some of these items on the left-hand side are lower risk. I think these are the types of things that Account Defender looks at. So things like making a repeat purchase or using stored credits or a common transaction. And then risk slightly increases as we go to address changes. This account's suddenly making a large purchase, or they're changing the email or random password change. All items that could be suspicious with the right combination of variables. And then as we move along the risk chain, so non-standard transactions, converting stored credits, disabling MFA, changing addresses of shipping destinations, for example. And then our much higher risk items could include logging in from a new IP address or a new well, not necessarily a new geolocation, but a new IP address, different time zone logins as well. So logging in from different areas, logging in from different geographic locations or from new devices, from new networks, that kind of thing. So moving on to into slightly more technical look at some of those things. So Account Defender also looks at all of those variables together. So for example, if a new device login from a new geographical location is also quickly changing, disabling MFA, changing ship to addresses all in a very short period of time, that's obviously going to be much more suspicious than if that was spaced out over several months, for example. But some more examples of how Account Defender works. So using behavioral and forensic detail. So how are users interacting with your applications, your websites? Are they immediately changing shipping address? We just covered that example. Are they operating at load times that are impossible for a human user to perform? How often have we seen similar behaviors? Are they usually logging in from the UK, but suddenly they're logging in from America? Could be suspicious. Is a device logged into lots of different accounts at the same time? Very suspicious behavior. Email, how old is the domain? What's the hosting service reputation? Have we quickly jumped geographical location in a short period of time? Very suspicious. So it looks at lots of different things to decide whether actions taken in that account are suspicious. And I will stress, this is not an exhaustive list. This is just an example of some of the advanced techniques that Account Defender uses in combination to make these sophisticated decisions and these risk assessments. Is why it's so effective at identifying both compromised and fake accounts. So there are three main stages to how Account Defender works. So we spent a lot of time talking about the detection process. So signals are profiled and analyzed for anomalies in all the areas we just discussed. So is user behavior matching what it used to be? Are there any patterns we can ascertain? What about statistical baselines? Device forensics, are we seeing new devices? Are we seeing new geographical locations? All of these signals are fed in to decide whether activity is suspicious or not. And then at the intervene phase, this is where a risk threshold has been passed. And so automated custom interventions are going to take place. So again, this is fully customizable depending on the needs of your organization. So calling customer APIs, introducing hard blocks, redirecting to a challenge page, or redirecting to a completely different page that is in line with the flow of your business. And then finally, reporting. So Account Defender has a really intuitive, powerful console that features advanced investigation and reporting tools. It makes it really easy for your teams on the ground to quickly understand an incident. Why did this take place? What was the response action taken? Very easy to share key information from incident details, from incident reports. And then lots of choice of reports to share that knowledge, that data. So you can use template reports or create your own custom reports in order to share the data that is critical for your organization. So here's a screenshot taken which really showcases that tailored approach that I was talking about. And here we're looking at a screenshot that shows what has triggered an intervention, what has caused this specific incident to pass a risk threshold. So again, this can be tailored depending on the needs of your organization. So examples you can see here, account withdrawal, you might be very focused on financial abuse like that, or illicit credit card use. And if that's the case, then we can flag those up. So those will be identified top of funnel for you, easy for your teams to see. Or perhaps you're operating an online marketplace where making sure that fake reviews are neutralized as quickly as possible are a key part of your business model. So we can make it very easy for you to identify fake reviews or seller abuse. And again, if you're more focused on the security elements of your users, then you can quickly flag up and see any changes to MFA or 2FA, or changing other security methods or account notifications. So there are lots of options for you to visualize what's really important for your organization. And we work very closely with you to make that reality. So let's look at a couple of quick examples of how a fake account or how a compromised account detection could take place. So we're going to start off by looking at a fake account example. So you can see, starting on the left, we have an account created and the score is 0. So that's because this is an initial account creation, so it's going to generate a low score because it could be legitimate. We just don't know at this point. That being said, if an account is created on a device we've seen before performing fraudulent or abusive activity, then it could be caught at this stage. But in this example, we haven't seen this device before. And then you can see that suddenly another account is created 10 minutes later. And then 10 minutes later, another account is created. So this is getting more suspicious. And you can see the score is increasing as we pass through these second and third account creations. And then finally, we have a fourth account creation from the same device. And this has all taken place over 30 minutes. So this is highly suspicious. And in this instance, action has been taken to neutralize those fake accounts. Now, let's look at an example detection for a compromised account. You can see on the left-hand side that when we start to monitor this account, the logins are based in Germany and on a Windows device. But on our first incident, you can see that the country has changed to Great Britain and we're using a new device, now a Mac device. And instantly we're having a password reset. So this is fairly suspicious behavior, and as such, a risk score has been assigned. In our second incident, from the same new country and new device, security has been edited, which triggers more risk being assigned to this account. And then finally, in our third incident, changes have been made to billing details. At this point, we've decided that this is likely to be a compromised account and action has been taken to neutralize it. So let's take a look at a quick case study where Account Defender has really delivered value. So this is one of our existing customers, a freelance marketplace. They were having issues with bad actors performing successful account takeover attacks, and they were compromising accounts, which were leading to unauthorized withdrawals, personally identifiable information access and stealing, changing account details, and malware distribution. In this case, both login protection and MFA, multi-factor authentication, had proven to be ineffective, and their accounts were continuously at risk. In this case, it was actually the bad actors using malware to bypass multi-factor authentication and login protection. They were able to exfiltrate the customer credentials from their devices because they had managed to deploy malware on them. The good news is Account Defender was deployed. It managed to identify and neutralize those compromised accounts. So in this case, the customer gained visibility into and neutralized their compromised accounts and managed to cut off the malware distribution. This resulted in improved operational efficiency and a much more pleasant user environment. So a good win for Account Defender and a significant benefit for our customer. Okay, so thank you very much for listening to this presentation on Account Defender. If you'd like more information, please head over to humansecurity.com or reach out to us at botornot@humansecurity.com. Thanks for listening.